So welcome to this open space for open education event. We are so happy for you to be here today. My name is Annette Sabray and I'll be your facilitator today. I am a Scheffel-Dunand MBA alumnus. I a former York University employee, and as well, I'm really honored to be here with all of you today. So thank you for having me with you. So we're here to talk about open education, and we will say more about that in a few minutes. Joy will give you some more background. But just to start, I just wanted to say that a little bit about open space, this technique that we're going to be using today. And normally we would be sitting in a big circle together right now, maybe at Founders Assembly Hall or in the new Student Center. And so we would be together in person, not here little squares, and we can only see 25 of us, and everybody else is in the background. So to really be present in the room, I'm going to invite you now, if you haven't already, to close your other programs, to turn your phone off, or if you can not do that, to put it in another room so that it's not distracting you. Certainly just putting it, even just turning it upside down is still distracting. It will be calling to you. So really doing that. And as we do that, as people get more in the room, I'm just going to invite us to take a few slow, deep breaths together. Just breathing in and breathing out. And really imagining you're breathing in through your heart. You might even put your hands to bring your attention to your heart. To feel more connected, because we're not in person and it does feel different. We can just bring in that compassionate energy of being connected even through the screen. And then also invite you to cultivate your curiosity to learn today and your courage to contribute, and hopefully also to have some fun. So look around. You can't see everybody, but there are 82 people now in the room and 175 have signed up. So we're expecting some more to come. And it's fantastic. We have a ton of faculty signed up. And here we have staff members and students and administrators and also some community members. So we've got a great group of people. And that means we have a lot of resources in the room and skills and abilities, and we have everything we need to have a great day. And the other thing I want to say, and the reason why we sit in a circle when we do this in person, is that everybody is equal and everybody can contribute. So really, the meeting you're going to have today is going to have to do with your courage, your putting an agenda you want to talk about on the agenda, a topic, and so I really invite you to fully participate and to feel that you're invited to do that. And I'll say a bit more about how you do that once we have our learning presentations. But first, I'd like to introduce you to our Open Steering Committee members. So if you can just give a wave if you're a committee member, that would be great. There's a bunch of them on the screen. And I'm just going to pass it on to Joy right now, who's going to say a few words about the committee and more about the impetus for this day on open education. You have to unmute yourself, Joy.
We're just finding it. Thank you, Annette. Thank you for creating that wonderful framing for us to start the day too. I'm Joy Kirchner, and I'm on the steering committee. And on behalf of all the steering committee members and my co-chair, Will Gage, we're just so delighted to welcome you to this open space event. I just very quickly wanted to share how we got to this point. So really, we began this steering committee in spring of 2020. And I just put in the link, just a link to where our site is and who we are in case you want to look at that. But really, we were here to create a mandate, among other things, a forum to engage in campus-wide discussion and create awareness about open education practices, among our whole York community. And when we started off in the space, we really didn't know who was actively involved in the space. So we knew that we needed to get a sense of who was doing what in this space, how we might engage with you. And then with the pandemic, it became abundantly clear that many of our community, our students and our faculty and other instructors were already engaged in open education in some way. And maybe they might not be using that term, but really engaging in kind of innovative practices as we moved online. So it just seemed perfect to us to start this kind of open space launching of our work, really as the purpose for really engaging in with all of you, students, staff, and faculty, in open conversations about what open education might mean for our community and beyond. So this includes thinking about open educational resources, such as open textbooks or other educational resources. Sometimes that's linked to student affordability. It includes things like videos and simulations and maps that are in the public domain and have what you'll hear more about as an open license. You'll see some examples of this from our wonderful speakers who've agreed to kick it off for us with some short presentations, which also includes discussion about open pedagogy and teaching practices that utilize open education resources, or the ways that students have co-created some of these resources. So our hope today, by the end of the day, that we have raised collective awareness and discussion. We will be recording much of these ideas today, and we will have a collective Google document that we can all share and participate in. We hope today that we'll have many seeds for many ideas that you can also initiate in your own classrooms or in your own work, ideas that you might want to bring back to our steering committee. We're also hopefully going to come out of this with some other working groups that you could participate in with us. We had some initial ideas about further sprints or other ways of carrying further our work with the committee. And so this is the start, the launch of our engagement with our community. I'm so delighted so many of you were signed up, and very, very grateful, most of all, to the team here that organized much of this work, Annette and many others in our committee. Could you just put your hands up, the ones that were really involved in organizing, Kritiga and Stephanie and others? Thank you. I mean, it was a huge endeavor and fantastic. So we need to thank all of these folks too, and all of our presenters and students who will be sharing in a moment. So excited for the day. It's a co-creation event, an open space event. So thank you again, Annette, for framing this so well. And to all of you for joining us today. We're so excited to have this rich conversation with you today. And thank you, steering committee. Over to you, Annette. Thanks.
Okay, beautiful, thank you. And thanks especially to Stephanie and Karthika, who I think are off camera right now and madly letting everybody in from the waiting room. Stephanie, if you could share screen, please. We'll finish our opening ceremony with a land acknowledgement and a quick overview of the code of conduct, and we'll have a look at the agenda too. So. The land acknowledgement. So as this event is virtual and we are not all gathered in the same space, I recognize that the land acknowledgement might not be for the territory that you are currently on, and I ask that if that is the case, you take the responsibility to acknowledge the traditional territories you are on and the current treaty holds. So as members of the York University community and this event, we recognize that many Indigenous nations have longstanding relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Caronto, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, I apologize, has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee, I should have practiced this more, my apologies, Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. Okay, so thank you for that. And the code of conduct. I'm not going to read the code of conduct, but just we've sent it to you in all of the reminder emails. Just a reminder that this is a harassment-free experience that we're wanting to create. We're inviting you to be civil with each other, to be kind. And if anybody violates these rules that we've set out, we will ask you to leave. And if you do encounter any issues, please speak to me or to Stephanie or Karthika or any of the other open education committee members who are identified in they've put OESC in parentheses beside their names so you can know who they are, or send me an email and we will get back to you if there's any problems. Next slide, please. Okay, so what will we do for the rest of the day? We're going to kick it off with 5 presentations from people who have been leading in open educational resources and pedagogy here at the university. Some of these have been AIF grants or eCampus funding projects and other things. And then after that, we will spend 20 minutes co-creating an agenda for each other today. And then we will have 2 blocks of 45-minute sessions with a break in between, and then we'll come back to close. I will explain the whole process when we create the agenda after the presentation. So for now, you don't need to worry about that. And so without further ado, I would like to pass it on to David to kick it off with the first presentation, and then they will each pass it on to the next presenters. So enjoy.
Right. Thank you. And thank you to the committee for inviting me, giving me this opportunity today. I just, going to talk about, if you want to go to the first slide, please, Stephanie, about e-learning modules for interactive art and design. And this was, this is a little, goes back a few years. It was in 2014, this project was initiated by a call for, from eCampus Ontario for the Ontario Shared Online Course Fund. And so we developed a proposal for 6 interactive art and design. You can go to the next slide, please. 6 interactive art and design learning modules to be created by 7 faculty members from 3 different institutions across Ontario. And really our priorities were to reach out and do this inter-institutional collaboration. Next slide. We started off with building the initial 6, and in 2016 we added 6 more. And in our discussion with all the participants, we decided the modules should be flexible and could be used for other instructors to act as in-class examples, reference material, or in support of course objectives, and to embed in their own curriculum however they saw fit. And it was also our intention that these modules could be used individually or in combination, either for online, blended, or face-to-face modes. Next slide. So the goal was really to introduce students to the key concepts in the theory and practice of new media at the intersection of art and design and the humanities. So topics included things like physical computing, interaction design, mobile gaming, urban projection, augmented reality, software development, and data visualization. Next slide, please. But we ran into some barriers, and this isn't exactly true, but we did encounter some obstacles. Next slide. And so some of those things were lack of mechanism to support the cross-institutional initiatives. Government funding models don't encourage sharing across institution programs. And we're also competing for the same students. And each university has varying technologies and different learning management systems. So it was a kind of a competitive, we called it competitive collaboration. But actually we do like to share because it helps break down silos, whether those are real or imagined. We can also pool our collective resources and extend our expertise in a range of interconnected subject matter. Next slide, which is a video. So we'll play that.
Hi, I'm Michael Longford.
My name is David Gelb.
Dr. Alexander Baum.
I'm Jason Howerlack.
I'm Professor Don Sinclair.
David Bouchard.
This module is all about computation. And why am I talking to you while riding a bicycle?
At its core, transhumanism is about examining how technology might be used to take humanity to the next phase in its evolution.
And it uses both software and hardware to perform its functions.
The lecture component of this unit retraces the roots of these three cultures and proceeds to analyze and compare their key ideas.
Processing plus access plus sensors, and I would add mobility, are setting the stage for the next wave, interaction.
And what happens is, as I run on the treadmill, a video projection behind me gets controlled by the speed of my running.
My name is Steve Daniels, and in this video we're going to introduce you to a basic framework for organizing your thinking about building experiences that are interactive and behavioral.
Tentacles is an experiment in spontaneous public performance, one that has been installed indoors and out.
Think about the visual and conceptual overloading that would occur if we could see every function Photoshop could perform in one single screen.
So the varying pulse width gives a varying voltage to the LED, and as a result, the brightness can be controlled using an analog output method.
The result, titled Voice Tunnel, is a work that does not exist without the active participation of users.
Quick look at this to see if we can pull out some functions. Well, what are we doing repeatedly here? Well, we're choosing a big block, random big block, we're choosing a random big block, we've chosen a random big block several times. So this is a prime opportunity to create a function. Good luck with the module.
Good luck and enjoy the explorations.
Thanks for watching.
So we realized in doing this project that deployment was not very practical. Like I said, there's multiple learning management systems for each institution. So we decided to build a standalone website that would house all of these modules, and people were free to go. You can go to the next slide, please. I think just go again. I think, Stephanie, yeah, there it is. So there's a screenshot of the website, and I'm going to end there. Thanks very much. And I'll introduce our next presenter, which is Sophie.
Hi, thank you, David, for that. So I'm here to speak about an OER, which is titled A Student Guide to Group Work, which is designed to help students be successful with group work in a university context. And the focus is really on helping students with the fundamentals of group work. So we particularly have an undergraduate student audience in mind here. And you can find this resource, I hope you'll check it out, at learningcommons.yorku.ca/groupwork. And if we can go to the next slide, this gives you a bit of an idea of what you'll find when you get there. So there's an introductory video. It's a good way to, if you're interested or you think you might be interested in using it, to get a sense of what the resource offers you. And the three main modules are understanding the team, communicating effectively, and planning the project. And those three were very much informed by quite a bit of research. We had a survey with over 1,000 York students reply actually. And so we had a good sense of the areas they felt they needed help, strategies, tools and techniques, etc. So when you go to each of these modules, you'll find a video which is animated and short. We knew that short was important. And then you'll find tips, tools, and templates as well with each module. And the templates and tools are downloadable. Often you can adapt them for use in your own classroom. And they're meant to help students sort of apply group work skills. So if we go to the next slide, this is about the who of the project. And it is very much a collaborative endeavor, bringing learning partners on campus together through the Learning Commons. And you can see the great faces of the team on screen there at our celebratory kind of completion event we had. And you can see on screen all the partners that make up the Learning Commons. And some of those folks are in our room today, and I'm delighted about that. So next slide, please. We worked for some time in the Learning Commons. We knew there was a gap with tools to support group work, and we wanted to do more around collaborative learning. And we laid a lot of groundwork, but really I cannot overemphasize how much this AIF Category 4 Open Access Teaching and Learning Grant opened doors for us. It gave us the capacity to hire a student. We hired a professional writing student, Hannah Anderson, who was on that picture as well, who had digital writing and digital media creation skills. And it gave her an experiential learning opportunity as well. So that's a benefit of a grant like this. The other piece was that, you know, if you participate in such a grant, and a lot of my co-presenters got this as well, the wonderful thing is it will be open access, and you are asked to assign a Creative Commons license to it, which has the wonderful benefit of being able to share and being allowing others to adapt and rework it, etc. And there are different types of licenses, obviously, but principles are, you know, there's a lot of commonality around the principles with Creative Commons. The other thing I would stress to you is if you apply for such a grant, and I hope there are going to be more of them, you also participate in the AIF Open Education Training Program with the modules there on screen that you see. And this is a wonderful course. My colleagues Stephanie Quayle and Sarah Koish in the libraries co-created and then delivered this in synchronous and asynchronous versions. And it was a wonderful resource to improve your own knowledge of open education and do a good job in the delivery of the project. So if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to wrap up by saying a very quick couple of things about why this project matters. I think one reason is it gives a resource to help foster more positive group work for both students and the faculty they're working with. It also is a multimodal resource, and there is a lack of this type of tool for support of group work. And so we felt we were building in this area where we know in higher education, there is more emphasis on the importance of collaborative learning. And I think one of the project's strengths is the fact that it was created by a diverse range of partners in learning at York, not just by one department. And finally, on the last slide, I'm kind of repeating a few things I've already said, but I will just stress this resource can be used independently by students or by faculty, either in whole or part, in courses you're teaching. We hope it will help with your course objectives. And I finally will just say the great thing about Creative Commons is not only were we able to put a license like that on our work, but our work also draws on the Creative Commons work of other institutions like UBC, University of Waterloo, and others. And you'll see in our templates, we give them credit. So we have this wonderful cycle of kind of building teaching and learning resources through open access and Creative Commons. So thank you for listening, and I'll pass over. I think our next speaker is Iris.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sophie. I'm going to share, oh, I cannot share my screen. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so welcome, and thank you, first of all, to the committee, to the library, and to the audience who are actually participating today. What I want to present to you in a very quickie way, because it's so hard to do it in 5 minutes, is about our SMART toolbox. SMART, it stands for Smartphone Accommodation Resource Toolbox. This particular toolbox is a creation and a development of over 5 faculty disciplines, including dance, including health, including design, engineering, and education, as well as a collaboration between faculty and student who teaches skills. So things about the skills could be either hands-on skills of communication, skill of an interview. Now, the impetus of this idea is the fact that we are, all of us, at some point are using videos as a teaching tool. And with the smartphone technology and the changing technology of the smartphone, using videos in teaching and learning become more dominating, and it's a basis of so many other teaching tools. However, what is missing is learning from the different discipline. And not only that, is thinking about the possibility and the differences between how students use the video in the context of teaching and learning, and how faculty send the instruction for teaching and learning with video. We have conducted, this grant is funded by the AIF for 2 years, and we have conducted a massive literature review as well as an interview with York University students and faculty around challenges, barrier, experiences, an example of how they use videos in teaching and learning. And the smartphone toolbox is has been coming up with about 4 categories that support the use and the application and the evaluation of using videos in the context of teaching and learning. We're speaking about resources and examples from student and from faculty around how they produce videos and how they give instruction to produce videos in the context of teaching and learning, how video feedback is being given. And I like Sophie's idea about the group work. So how feedback is given using videos in the context of group work. And technique illustration, that's another modality and software needed for the video recording, and as well as digital citizenship. And that's the idea of ethics and its implication in using videos in our classes. Our particular course, I really wanted to take you, that's why I don't have PowerPoint slide, because I wanted to give you a quickie example, and I think it's worth 1,000 words. I will have the links available, and I will have a session available later on if you want to participate, and I'll give you an example of a course that I was teaching last term and how I used it in a class of 150 students. So let me give you a quickie example, because this is so exciting. Let's pretend you want to use your video and you want to use it as to produce a video. All right, you want to produce a video. And again, this is a resource for student and faculty. So let's pretend that you are a student. You are the student, and you're saying, and the assignment is about either create a model with your video, like a particular close-up skill, or either tell a story with your video using your smartphone, or either just do a presentation that you need to do to your student or to an assignment. I'm gonna just very quickly take one idea. There are variation. You notice not everybody knows the high technology of fancy video. Maybe somebody just want to make a no editing. Maybe someone make low editing or high editing. I will click on one just to show you an example. And this is an example of a video that a student made with no editing, strictly with her, I think it's a her, with her video. You see the example, and there are instruction of what was used, and there are links to digital citizenship. So I will give you one example, very quickie one. I know my time. So this is an example from nursing. I will not go over through all the video. And this was an example, remember, of a low editing. Another example is with produce the video. I just want to show you, because we're layering, well, it was the student. And it was, I think it was model scale. And then this one will be with low or high. So you are layering it in terms of complexity, in terms of description of the video. And this is within nursing, this particular one, but we have about 5 disciplines. As I say, you have example from 5 disciplines. So this will be a video with low editing with a smartphone. And I don't want to go again through the video. What I also want to feature is that each of the videos allow support and resources to think about digital citizenship. Digital citizenship was one of the most important piece that was missing and was identified as a gap for both student as well as for faculty. So again, I will not spend a lot of time in here, but it takes you, the system takes you through a series of questions to think about for your assignment, or for you as a teacher, or for you as an instruction. So when is the media release required? If you are going to record, a media release is required. So where will the recording take place? I'm just clicking here, public place. Who will be recorded? Let's say myself. And let's say, will any of the following copyright be protected? Let's say I will include the art or logo. It helps you think through the ideas when you're taking your camera or your smartphone and you're starting recording. I don't want to go and spend.
Thank you, Iris. If you could just wrap it up.
Yes. So yeah, sorry. You see, I'm so excited about it.
It's great. You can, and people can learn more later in your session.
Yes. So thank you so much. This is the smartphone. And yeah, if you have any question, email me, and we would love to hear from you and see how you're using smartphone or video in your course, and you can share your course outline. So far, we have 7 faculty sharing their course outline, and I will show an example if you'll join me in the session. Bye. Thank you. Stop sharing. I will want to present Dominique's student, which are Liam Bekirsky, Paul Owen, Reem Aleithan, Johnny Kang, and and Dominique Scheffel-Dunand. Take the stage.
Thank you, Iris. And I will quickly introduce the students, but I will riff on your comment about having OER develop across faculties and across discipline. So I'll quickly introduce the 4 students. I am Dominique Scheffel-Dunand, professor in French studies at LAPS, but you'll see that from the students' presentation today, they come from different faculty and discipline at York. Liam Bekirsky is an alumni from Glendon and alumni from Monk School, and now doing a PhD at the Oxford Internet Institute. He worked with me on the AIF for developing OER for the globally network learning initiatives at York. Johnny, Paul, and Reem are 3 of them are graduates from La Sonde Computer Science, and they worked as well on the AIF for the globally network learning and another project that I lead, which is a knowledge accelerator for French language learning. So you'll see from their experience, we wanted to have the students' voice today in terms of what it means to co-develop, co-create between students and faculty across the university. Liam?
Great. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the theme of this, sorry, one back. So the theme of this presentation is going to be co-creation of OER between student, faculty, and academic units at York, and how it's important for advancing innovative teaching and learning practices. Next slide, please. You'll have access to the slides, so all of this information about the AIF as well, and the context will be there as well. So while concretely what we're talking about here is the design process, which is ideation through to creation of an OER teaching and learning product, which in this case, as you'll see in our example presented by Johnny and Paul, is an application. These are generally used by students, faculty members, and staff, and in this case at York International and its international partner institutions. The glue that holds this whole design process together is co-creation between different stakeholders. But what is co-creation and why is it important? For us, co-creation is working with different stakeholders around a common problem. And we've done this with students from Glendon and Lausanne and students on exchange programs abroad, all coming together to tackle the problem of providing accessible virtual mobility to students who might not have the opportunity to be immersed in an academic program other than their degree program at York. So the problem that we looked at in this case was what learning tools could enhance the learning experience and the knowledge sharing with students from different academic institutions, and how can students inform instructors of their needs for these virtual learning experiences. And this again, for the context of globally networked learning. Next slide, please. So we conceived of an ideathon to allow the framing of the co-creation process with foreign students from France and Glendon students, with the goal of conceptualizing these teaching and learning OER applications. The ideathon process also gave students the opportunity to develop or to be aware of skills required to acquire intercultural competencies, 21st century competencies such as group work and creative and critical thinking skills, as well as plurilingualism. Next slide, please. So we built on the ideathons, where the ideas for different products came to fruition, through a creathon or a creatathon, which pivoted to co-creation with engineering students from the Lausanne school to build models and prototypes that concretize these ideas from the ideathon and are practicable and can be used in different courses in different contexts. And so this also fostered the development of other skills like interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, as well as digital competencies, both for Glendon and Lausanne students. And the final part is consultations. And this final phase was about integrating the products that came out of these creatathons into real world spaces. And these are courses, these could be courses such as GNL initiatives, both at York and in the world. And getting feedback from stakeholders. And then based on that feedback from those real stakeholders who are professors and other stakeholders, pivoting and redesigning and reiterating on their initial things so that they can be adapted like through the 5R process for OER. And so this phase is to ensure that stakeholder engagement, empathy, reflection, and critical thinking around the OER teaching and learning application makes sure that the tools actually are taken up by the users that we want them to be done. So thank you. I'll pass it on now to Paul for the next slide.
Our learning was truly grounded in co-creating with others. I'd like to speak about the co-creation process and what that looked like with various stakeholders. We were very involved in co-creating with faculty, partners, units such as York International, students, and the world. In my opinion, co-creating with faculty was very unique because it opened the opportunity for students and faculty to work together in creating a robust and scalable learning tool for hosting a repository of resources ranging from SDGs to language learning and many more collections. Co-creating with partners enabled us to use feedback from consultation to inform further insight from a didactic activity to a real product, going through all the different procedures needed until the product is ready to be adopted by clients. And lastly, co-creating with the world. Knowing that the learning tools are anchored as OER themselves, following the Creative Commons licensing agreement was particularly attractive for us because it promotes inclusivity, because the tools can be adapted to fit the needs of others, accessibility because they can be used in countries where there's a digital divide, and it also exposes us as students to learn more about the notion of authorship, sharing, and IP, key competencies for the future of work. Next slide, please. Next, I would like to pass it over to Johnny to speak about his experience.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everyone. So I'd like to conclude our presentation by sharing my experience as a developer. This experience was helpful in terms of building a professional project that can be resourceful and potentially used in real life. To accomplish a fine work, it challenged me to do more research and do own studies. I had to look up on how to design a map, how to connect the code to a database, and how to make a better user interface for users. In school, these skills are not taught, nor there is a course on how to put all the pieces together to make it a one working tool. But through this experience, I gained a valuable skill that is necessary in the actual work field, and I wish in future more students get to have an experience like this. That ends our presentation, and if you have a further question and want to see our project, please come and see the demo and we can continue the discussion. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Thanks everybody for your presentations. And next slide, please. Paul is unfortunately not well, so he is not with us, so we can skip ahead to the principles. Yes. So now we're going to learn about what this open space process is all about. And just to give you a bit of background, open space was created in the 1980s by Harrison Owen. And what he wanted to do was create events that were more like the coffee breaks. I'm just realizing, maybe I need to be pinned. I still see, oops, I don't actually. Maybe, Stephanie, can you do that?
Yep, I just pinned you.
Okay, great. Anyways, I don't see myself, but that's okay. It's better if I don't see myself, as long as everybody else can. So he wanted to create meetings that were more like coffee breaks, that like the interesting conversations. And so that was the idea for open space. And it's done around the world in groups as small as 5, as big as thousands. And what's amazing is I get outstanding results, and it'll work here for you. And I encourage you to be prepared to be surprised, because really never before has this group been together, and it will never be exactly this group ever again. So there we go. So in open space, we have 5 principles. So the first, whoever comes are the right people. And that's about the whole group. And that's also about in the sessions. If you happen to have a session and you're the only one there, then you can reflect deeply. It's not a popularity contest. We're not looking, more people is not necessarily better. And certainly smaller groups are nice for conversation. Wherever it happens is the right place. So for those of you that were here early, or if you saw in our email, there are, when we show you the breakout rooms, there are, at the bottom of the list, there are breakout room places where you can go for side conversations. And I'll say more about that in a minute. But wherever it happens is great, whether it's in the formal sessions or not. And then whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. And that's about that, letting go of all the shoulds and coulds, and this should be happening, and why isn't that happening? And just really letting yourself go with the flow. And a big part of that is timing. So the last 2, whenever it starts, is the right time. And when it's over, it's over. So right now, we're actually on schedule, yay. But that's because Paul wasn't here. And you might be in a session, like the blocks of time are 45 minutes, but after 20 or 30 minutes, you're done talking. And so then the invitation is to go to another session. And so that brings me to the next slide, please, which is the law of mobility. This is the big important thing in this process. And that if at any time you find yourself where you are not learning or contributing, then we invite you to, if you click on it, click on the breakout rooms and find another session, hover on the number. That's how you get to the join button. You have to hover on the number for those of you who haven't done it before. And then you can click with your cursor, join, and go to another room. And so you have responsibility to be in a place where you're learning or contributing. And if you're not, you go somewhere else. Okay. So next slide, please. So 2 more insects or ideas. And this brings together wherever it happens and the law of mobility. So the first concept are butterflies, and butterflies are the ones who maybe never go to a session. So these are participants who are having side conversations in one of these. You can see here the list of coffee breakout rooms that we have. And if that's what you want to do today, that's great, because those side conversations, you know, it might even be a conversation with just two people, but that conversation helps somebody articulate things, put it into words in a way that they weren't able to before. And then they go share that in another session, and that, you know, ripples through the event. And so the butterflies, those delicate, you can think of them as a bit delicate, they're deceptively impactful and they're welcomed. And then the other idea are the bees, and the bees are the ones who can't decide, want to be at two places at once. They like this session and that session. And so the invitation is go to both, go to one for the first half and then switch. So use your law of mobility, go where you want to be, and be, pun intended, right? And in doing that, you're going to cross-pollinate the ideas. And so that the ideas aren't happening, the sessions aren't all in silos, but there's some cross-pollination happening, which is fantastic. So those are the main points of there. So next slide, please. So the agenda. So in a moment, we are going to create an agenda. And what's going to be really important is that your topics are passionate, that if you want to host something, that you're going to be responsible, and I'll say more about that. And this is important. So if your topic that you really want to talk about isn't on the agenda, that you hold yourself responsible, because we are co-creating the agenda. And so we do need you to be courageous and to put your hand up if you want to talk about something. And related to that is that you don't need to be an expert in the topic. All you need is the passion, the asking the question, and others who have the same question or people who have the answer can come to your session. So there's lots of flexibility there. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see there's 4 main roles today. So there's the sponsors, there's the Open Education Steering Committee, there's me, who's facilitating and guiding you through the process. There's the participants, all of you, and then some of you will choose to also be conveners. And so if you convene or host a topic, you are committing to show up on time and where you said you'd be in whatever room, breakout room. And then the other thing you are doing is you're ensuring that somebody will take notes in the Google Doc that we will share very soon, and that we will use as our agenda building space and note-taking space that we will co-create a living report today. And so I want to be clear that the person who's convening, your job is not to facilitate. Presentations are fine, like Iris with her project, she's going to share her project. So saying you want to share something you've done so others can learn is fine, but we're not expecting people who convene a topic to take care of the group. The group will take care of itself. You are responsible for your learning. And so if you're not enjoying the session, or you decide you want to be a bee and buzz to another session, then you're welcome to do that. And so that there's less pressure on the host. The main thing for you as a host is to pick a topic that you're really passionate about, show up, make sure somebody takes notes. And so click, please. Yeah, okay, so this is a screen grab from the Google Doc, and it shows you some of the agenda, what we're going to create. So when we invite you in, you're going to be asked to provide a topic, your name, and like I said, you don't have to be an expert in it. You can just really be asking a question. And if nothing comes to mind, that's fine. You can be a participant today and be a butterfly, a bee, move around. People providing the topics are the flowers, providing the things to buzz around too. And so you will be able to move to breakout rooms as you please. So actually now, what we're going to do is we're going to stop screen share for now. We're done with the slides. And if you want, you can leave me up, or you can go to gallery view. You can come back on camera if you'd like. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pause for a second. And we're going to notice what we want to talk about. And actually, I invite you to close your eyes and just actually I said come back on camera, but really I want you to forget about everybody else. And I actually want you to come back to yourself and to notice, what are you interested in talking about today? Just pausing, and really don't think about it too much. Let it bubble up. Notice what comes when you just say, ask yourself more really broadly, maybe even asking your body, what do I want to talk about today? And as you do that, you might notice that you have a couple topics coming up. And if that's the case, I invite you to really notice in yourself which one is most exciting to you. Which one do you really want to talk about? And which ones are just kind of like, oh, well, that would be good to do, or, you know, yeah, there's that too. And then I invite you to notice what role you want to play. Some of the presenters have already committed to hosting something, but the rest of you, do you want to host a topic? Do you want to make sure the topic is on the agenda? Or are you really open to just noticing what other people provide and you're just going to participate? We shouldn't say just, and you're going to participate. So just really noticing what you want to do. And a reminder, you don't have to be an expert. You might have a beautiful question that everybody else has too, or not everybody, many people have. And we just need somebody to pose the question so that that conversation can be had. So just pausing and just getting some clarity. And when you come back, you can open your eyes. I invite you to write down your question, because I'm going to give you a brief overview now of the Google Doc. So you'll have a few more minutes to think about what you'd really like to talk about and what you might like to host. But whatever came just now, you can write it down and just reflect on it for a moment. And now, as you write it down, I'm going to share my screen. Desktop 2. And then I need to go here. So you should now be able to see the Google Doc. And so what I want to show you, so here's the agenda, right? We're on page 3 when you get in here. We're going to share you the link in a minute. And you can see here that some people have already put in a topic. These are our 4 presenters. So they've all decided they'd like to host something, so they're in here. So in a moment, when we open it up, you'll be able to come in and put in your topic that you'd like to host and your name. And so I'll use Iris's as an example. So when you click on the link, it brings you a hyperlink, and you can click down to the notes section. So here's the notes section for Iris's topic. And so you'll re-put in the name of the topic and your name. You can do that here as well. And then participants, as you join, or the note taker, if it's a small group, we'd love if you'd give us your names. That way we can get back in touch with you, that if say a working group comes out of this topic, we know you're interested because you've participated, we'll be able to reach out to you. And also just to have a sense of who participated. And then there's the discussion notes section. Here we would like the main salient facts that come up in the discussion. You don't have to record everything, but having the note taker that the host is responsible for ensuring somebody does that, takes notes. And then any action ideas, things, projects, or whatever that come out of your discussion, if you could put them in that separate section. So that is the notes. And if we just go back up here, you'll see that on page, I believe this is 5, yes. Here's the coffee stations. So if you are in a session with somebody and you say, oh, we should talk about that. Let's talk about it at the break. Well, you can actually come and put it in here that you're going to talk about X topic in a small discussion at the break. Or you decide you don't want to be in any sessions and you'd love to have a discussion about something else. You can put topics here in the coffee stations as well and invite other people to come. And the other thing I'll say about the coffee stations is that they're public spaces, just like the coffee table or the lobby at a real conference, right? So people will come in and out. So don't expect, it's not a private conversation. It's more intimate, but people can come, and there's an invitation to move around. Okay. So if we go to the very bottom, I'll just scroll back up here. I go to the very bottom. On page 36, there are coffee break hangout ideas. So this is the section for, I could say breakout room. Breakout room, hangout ideas, okay? So any side conversations that you have that have really great ideas that you think, oh, that's a good idea, somebody should do that, or I'm gonna do that. If you'd like to record them, this is the section to put them in. You can put your name if you like, or you don't have to put your name. But there's an opportunity to record the great ideas that come out. Near the very bottom here, there is a help section. So if you need help with the closed captionings, because they're not available in the breakout room, so that you can use PowerPoint to have subtitles, there's information there. There's information again for how to access the breakout rooms. You click this breakout room button, hover on the number, it'll change to join, and then you can click it. But if you need help, you can come here or stay in the main room, and Stephanie will be able to help you. And finally, the code of conduct is here if you need it to read it. And if we jump to the very top, we have our agenda up here, and you can see the timing that we're hoping to maintain, but of course it will be flexible as open space is. So there's 2 45-minute sessions, and I'm realizing we're behind time. I'm talking too long. So we'll do our best, and then the principals are here as well. Okay, so I think we are ready. So I'm going to grab this link, and I'm going to go back to Zoom. Whoops. Oh yeah, I have to stop share to do
Annette,
this.
I just shared it for you. So
Okay,
I had
perfect.
it ready to go.
Okay, so it's open. So I invite you now to go in the Google Doc and to, if you'd like to suggest a session, to put in your session and put in your name. And then once you've done that, if you will, you can raise your hand under reactions. There's a raise hand feature, and then we can have you say your session out loud for people. And we don't have to have them all said out loud, but we'll have an opportunity for people to say their sessions as they're being put in. So you're welcome to open the Google Doc. I guess just let that be for a minute. People are joining. Just a reminder that questions are great. You can have a question, you can have a topic that you want to talk about. I guess I'll share my screen again. So for those who want to. Did I share the right screen? I can't see.
Yeah, I think you did, Annette. I'm just madly trying to type into the Google Doc.
Okay. So Iris, would you like to start us off and tell us what your session will be really briefly?
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. So, sorry, I had a problem with my internet. I will speak about the SMART. Will give you actually a specific example of how I use it in one of my nursing research course, what worked, what didn't, and some great feedback I got from faculty. And I also wanted to show you other ways to use the SMART toolbox that was not originally intended, but that's the beauty of OER. And I want to hear from other participants who are using videos in teaching and learning, what works, what doesn't. Yeah, so it's very informal, learning from each other, because I'm excited to get your ideas and students' ideas. So everybody's welcome.
Beautiful. Okay, oops, sorry. Room 2 is empty right now. Room 3. Dominique or one of your students? Go ahead.
I think Liam is going to make this the pitch.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of try and tease out this idea of co-creation a little bit more and look at student and faculty co-creation and what that could look like for OER. We've got, obviously, we can share plenty of examples from our project, including perhaps doing a quick demo of the maps and then showing a little bit more about how the process from ideation through to kind of adoption of these maps in globally networked learning courses and other options. But anyway, we can definitely explore this idea of co-creation and OER a bit more, and certainly have some questions on that. So
wonderful. Room 4, Tim, do you want to say what you're going to do?
Hi, thank you. So the proposal here is that if we're putting together these educational resources, that we might be able to use them to attract attention of people who aren't necessarily taking courses at York, but may one day. And then connected to that is the possibility that we could use the same material for non-credit courses and the same material for credit courses, and even the same material for assessing prospective students. So there could be multiple ways to use the same material.
Beautiful. Room 5, Norma Sue.
Yes, I'd really be interested in hearing from people about different ways that they might incorporate OERs in their courses. And I can speak about a blended course that I taught a few years ago and the materials that I created for that.
Wonderful. Sean, are you ready? You're still typing.
Yeah, I just forgot that we were supposed to put this as a form of a question, or were we? Anyways, I changed it to a question, which is how can we create open textbooks?
Beautiful. Awesome. Susan, room 7.
Yeah, I think I'm just really interested in how do you get more people to buy into this being a really good idea? Because, when we talk about it, everybody, says, oh yeah, I mean, I love free resources. And then you show them what's available or the fact that they can put their stuff into York Space, and no one wants to do it. So I guess I just wanted to problem solve around that, brainstorm.
Okay, and there are no things down there. So let's go back up to the top. And in round 2, at 2:55, room 16, David.
Yeah, I was thinking, very generally, and maybe this overlaps with some of the other sessions that I'm now hearing them, but really the idea about how do we share these things and how do we, Y space is one area, it's, but maybe there's other methods of sharing and reusing these and adapting them for different, courses that instructors might want to use them.
Okay. Room 17, Sophie.
Hi, yes. So the theme is sharing, building, and adapting group work resources for undergrad students, but it could go beyond that kind of audience. Just hoping to hear from people how they're developing their own resources, what resources they think might need development, what they know of out there in the OER world, that type of coverage.
Thank you, Sophie. Room 18, Mary Rose.
Hi, yeah. I would be interested to see what people would think about building access through OERs for globally networked learning or collaborations around the world.
Wonderful. And room 19, I don't know who you are yet, but would you like to come on and say something about yours?
It's from me, Geneviève. I mean, I just put this one out there because there didn't seem to be topics explicitly focused on what OER might bring in terms of opportunities and challenges for disseminating research. So if anybody's interested in that topic, I'm I'm willing to be the host and just curious, really.
Fantastic. Okay, wonderful. So we will open the breakout rooms now, and you can go to your first round of sessions. You can pick where you want to be. You can go to a coffee breakout room if you want a side conversation. At 2:45, there'll be a 10-minute, there will be a 10-minute coffee break. And so you can choose to extend your session. We're a bit late now. So you can use the coffee break, or you can just shorten the session as you like. And the other thing I was going to say, what was the other thing? Oh, it might take a few minutes for everybody to get in the room. So you might, now's a good time to go for a bathroom break if you really need it. And that we will all be back here at 3:40. We'll come back together at the end. We'll close the breakout rooms at that point. And then the last thing is we will send you a 10-minute message before the end of the session, so you know that your time is almost up, and to remind you to make sure you've taken some notes from your session. So have a great time, and you can buzz off. that sounds rude. You can buzz away. You can go to your first flower. Yeah. Enjoy. All right. No, so welcome back again for the recording. Okay, and I'm going to ignore the waiting room. If Stephanie and Karthika, if you can take care of that, that would be great. So how was that? I'm going to invite you to get a sense of everybody's experience, and then we can put it in the report, to just pause for a moment and get a word for your experience of doing open space. Not about what you learned, but what you learned about working this way, or how you're feeling right now. And if just get a word, and you can share that in the chat. We'll just get a quick sense of how are you all doing with one word. So exciting, connection, inspired, flexible, collaborative, engaging, mildly optimistic, good, relaxed, global, surprised, inspired, collaborative, great potential. Take ownership of my own experience. Very good. Okay. So normally we would invite people to share something that really was inspiring for them. And I think that's still how I would like to do it. I was thinking we could take the time and have somebody from each of the 10 sessions say something, but I think it would be great to just really hear a little bit from something that you're really inspired by or excited about. So I'll invite you to put your hand up, and then we'll just hear from a few people, just something that you're really taking away from today. A moment of insight, or just hear a little bit of sharing from people. So you can put your hand up. Either, I can't see everybody. So if you could use the hands up feature under reactions, that would be great. Okay, so Brenda, you're in the top left of my screen.
Sure. I attended Professor Iris Epstein's talk about her smartphone toolbox, and she's very inspiring in that I think it really brings home the digital age of our students and how savvy they are with wanting to use their phone and create selfies. And it really relates to the millennials or the younger age group, and they really like that idea, but also to use it as assignments, and that we could use it and pose questions, like do a clip about something, and that it's tapping into the accessibility issues as well. So there's a wide range of applicability to what she's created and developed. And I'm looking forward to implementing some of these into some of my courses I teach.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Joy.
Oh,
I just found it great. I'm really appreciating the sessions and time to just build on other people's ideas, you know. In Zoom, it's been difficult. And I thought this was, for me, very creative. And I felt inspired by little nuggets of things that I'm glad we're capturing that we can maybe build upon. That's my experience.
Thank you. Is it Peter? You're muted.
Not used to Zoom yet.
That's okay. Did I get your name right? I'm remembering your name from like when I used to work there.
No, you're quite correct. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I was just reminded, I went to the map session, the first session, and I know a few years ago there was a lot of excitement about that kind of on the fly, instantaneous updating of maps for one of my areas, which is disaster and emergency management, because in many circumstances, they have maps from a locale which has had a disaster, but they don't know. So the 4 bridges that go into an area, maybe only one is still working, but they don't know that by looking at the map. But if you had something that was electronic, that, you know, someone on the ground could text and saying, well, this bridge is out, or this dam has broken, or the telephone system is only working on this side of the city, then you could incorporate the map, which would help the people on the ground, because they wouldn't necessarily have to be in those locales or that area to know that the bridge is out, the telephone system is halfway down, or the dam has broken. They could just say, oh, okay, we can't go that way, we have to go this way. Or we have to adjust our delivery of aid and supplies because we now know this has happened. Because in, you know, so many disasters, I'm thinking of the reactor in Japan. I mean, they really had very little information, and lots of things were not able to move as quickly because they didn't have the information. So I just think that's something I should look up again.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Would anybody else like to share? Okay, Sean?
I'll share quickly from the textbook session. Had a great discussion with everyone, which was fun and helpful. Identified a number of areas where services and supports could be usefully applied at the university to supporting the creation of open textbooks, and a really interesting suggestion from Peter in law about publishing service support and what that could potentially look like for supporting the publishing of open textbooks. So I think there's some interesting conversations that could be had going forward in thinking about what role the university could play and what kind of partnerships they could have with publishers potentially for supporting the creation of open textbooks.
Great. I think Susan, you're next.
Yeah, I'll just say that we had a very engaging conversation about how to get encourage or communicate more or better about resources and how to create resources, open educational resources, with some interesting actions. And so I'm going to sort of maybe just reiterate something that Joy said, which is I think we've got our marching orders as a committee. Like, I mean, I think we're definitely getting some ideas on what we're working towards in the future. So I appreciate all the input from everybody on these groups.
Great. And Narmasu?
Yeah, the first session that I was in was around building resources for courses and how can we incorporate. But what came out very clearly was, you know, those of us who are in a full-time position are in a very different situation than maybe contract faculty or graduate students. And how do we ensure that we're not, you know, abusing actually their input? And so how do we make sure that authorship is clearly articulated and that they have access to these resources later? So yeah, there was a lot of things that I think the steering committee will want to take a look at going forward.
Great. So I'd like to invite you all now for just a moment to just pause and notice if there's anything that you individually want to do. So of course, the steering committee is going to take all of this and they're going to do working groups and sprints, and there's going to be lots coming back to you from the committee. But some of this you maybe can already do. Some of the things you learned today, maybe you can start doing, like videos, if you have a smartphone. I was talking to, was it Alice, who doesn't have a smartphone? Like, you might not have the tools, but maybe you do have the necessary equipment or skills that you could just go ahead and start. So just pause for a second and just sense, what am I going to do now? Is there an idea bubbling up? And just maybe schedule some time to think about that you can take action now, and you don't have to wait for the committee. You certainly don't want to give that impression, but it's you have a lot of autonomy to do some of this now. So would anybody else like to share? And if not, I think I will pass it on to Will for some closing thoughts.
Can I just add one thing? Yeah. I think there were so many great ideas, and there's potential for us to build community. So we might come back to everyone who participated to see how they might want to participate in that. That's just one idea. Or if you have thoughts about that, that would be great to hear.
Not seeing any other hands, so I guess Will.
Okay. Thanks, Annette. It's been an amazing afternoon, honestly. When we first started talking about this, I was a little scared because we're talking about bringing together, 100 people to work collaboratively in a Zoom session. And oh my gosh, what are we getting ourselves into? But, and I think that reflected some of the sense of the rest of the members of the steering committee too. But we thought, okay, well, let's just go for it and see what happens. So I want to thank the committee, and in particular, Annette, for steering us through this and having the guts to just jump in off the deep end and do it. And it was a tremendous success. I'm really, really amazed, almost astonished that we could have this kind of conversation, this kind of sharing happen over Zoom, in this way. It's really remarkable. When we first started talking about doing this, we thought, oh, well, maybe we'll get 25 people. And then I think someone said, well, maybe we'll get 40 or something like that. Well, we had over 140 people express interest in coming. I think something like that.
175 signed up.
175? Oh my gosh. So clearly not everybody signed up. There were a couple people I was looking for here, and a couple people texted me earlier in the day to say that they weren't going to be able to make it and to apologize, and that they had hoped that there would be a recording. But I think there will be a recording. So, and clearly there is. And I also said there will be a lot of other artifacts that come out of this, and clearly that's also the case. So this has been an incredibly productive day as well. So we had roughly about 85 people at the beginning of the day, which is twice as many as we thought would even sign up. And through the day, we've lost some people, but life is busy and people have to go on and do other things. So as I'm talking, it says we still have 43 people in the room at the end of the day. It's just absolutely amazing. Way to go. And way to hang in there as well, all this time on Zoom in the afternoon. I wanted to, again, thank the committee, thank Annette and Stephanie and Cartiga and a few other people in particular for really doing the heavy lifting to make this happen. But of course, none of this would have happened if not for all of you who chose to spend your afternoon with us. So thanks to all of you as well. I think this is a really phenomenal step forward. I've learned a ton. I learned something new every single day on this job. And I've learned a ton just in sitting and listening and flitting. I guess I was a bit of a butterfly going between rooms, and a bit of a bee, because every now and again there's something, oh, I just heard Sean say something, and maybe you guys should over here think about that. Now and again, Sean gets some wood on the ball and says something smart. I can't see Sean on my screen. Oh, there he is.
You missed all the swing and a miss.
Okay. But no, there was some really, really interesting things that come up. I had an opportunity myself to ask questions of some incredibly smart and talented people who I've not had the opportunity to meet yet prior to today. So thinking back on how the day got started here, Joy or Annette said something about community. I think it was Joy who, or sorry, it was Annette who said, this is, you know, and this group is going to come together as a community. This group has never been together before. It might never be together again exactly like this, but it's really clear to me that there's going to be a lot of a lot of these people who are with us today and more are going to come together again in different ways over and over to continue pushing the envelope on open educational resources. So I think Joy said a few minutes ago, this is a community. This is an extension of our larger York community, and one that's focused like this is just amazing. So I want to just wrap up by saying thank you again to everyone. There's so many interesting topics. I know there's a couple that I'm taking away right now to start working on. Tim had some amazing ideas around OERs and recruitment. I'd never even thought of that before. So here we go. I'm going to take that away right now and start talking to some people, and credit where credit is due to Tim and to Joy for these thoughts. So I'll share those, and I think it's going to be some really interesting stuff comes of that. And I'm sure every one of you has at least one of those kinds of thoughts you'll be able to take away, as Annette said, and maybe start doing right now. So don't hold back, just go for it. I think that's it. I think I want to wrap up. We're 4 minutes early. You can't get a bunch of academics and university types in a room and 4 minutes early. So congratulations to all of us for doing that too, and to Annette for keeping us on track. So with that, I'd like to wish you a great rest of the day. And if I don't see you again before the weekend, a great weekend. And I hope to see everyone again at some point in time really soon. And thanks everyone for taking the time to be with us again today. We'll be following up and sharing everything that we learn.
Yeah, we'll share the report and the videos.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
The one last thing I was going to say is, if you have edits, if you're not done with your notes, I'm assuming you are, but if you're not, send me a note, because we will lock the document and then to then format it and send it out. So
thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Annette.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.